Yeah, after having a look at the Proxmox backup client in the last video, which we can use to back up our Linux systems, which don't need to run under Proxmox PV, I want to show you some advanced features of this client in this video. For example, how to display a list of the existing backups within the CLI, or how to create encrypted backups. In order to demonstrate that, I'm already connected to my test system via SSH, on which I installed the Proxmox backup client. Yeah, and I can use the Proxmox backup client list command to display the existing backups here on my Proxmox backup server on this data store. So I will just execute that, provide the password, and after that we see a list of the existing backups. So we can see if it is a container backup or a VM backup or a backup of a host. So the Proxmox backup client was used. Here we can see the full name of a backup. For example, we can use that within the restore command, and also the backup count and the files the backup consists of. In addition to that, we can also use the subcommand snapshot list to display all backups for a specific system, like this VM with the ID 100. So after executing that, we can see that there's only one backup for this system, and of course if there are more backups than one, a list of the backups is displayed. Furthermore, the Proxmox backup client is also capable of creating encrypted backups. And in order to be able to create encrypted backups, I will create a key. So I can just use the subcommand key create, and I need to provide a file name as an argument. After executing that, I need to provide the password for the key, and I need to confirm that. And after that, the corresponding file was created in my current working directory. Yeah, and using this key, we can create an encrypted backup. And for that I will use the following command that we have also used when creating an unencrypted backup. So here I specified the path to the directory that I want to backup, and also the repository, so my Proxmox backup server, and the corresponding data store. And for creating an encrypted backup, I will add -- key file and the path to my key. So in that case, it's in the current directory. So I will now start the backup, and I need to provide the password for the key. And in that case that was successful, so no error message, and the backup was completed. We can also find this encrypted backup here within the web interface, within the content section of our data store, but it is important to know that we can't just click on this icon and restore individual files, like when restoring files from an unencrypted backup, since the encryption is done on the client side. So in that case, we also need to perform the restore on the client side. So we can use the command Proxmox backup client restore. First of all, we need to provide the name of the backup and the name of the file that contains the root file system. As we have seen, we can get this information after executing Proxmox backup client list. Then here is the target directory for restoring the files. So in my case, just a directory called restore within the home directory of my current user. And just like when creating the backup, I provided the repository and the key file. So I can now start the restore. And after providing the password, we only get this small output, which is often a good sign for shell commands, so no error message. And as we can see here, in my case the restore was successful, also for this encrypted backup. So this one text file was the only file in my backup, and it was restored. Yeah, as we have seen, such commands can get quite long. For example, if we need to provide the repository every time, but we can use environment variables if we don't want to do that every time. So for example, I can create an environment variable for the repository as shown here by using the export command. So if I do that and remove the repository from the restore command, I can also perform the restore without specifying the repository. So as you can see, the connection to the repository was successful without specifying it as an argument, and we only get this error message since the file already exists. Just be aware that this variable doesn't exist anymore if I start a new session or close this terminal window. If we want that the variable also exists in new sessions, we can, for example, add this command to our bash rc file. So for example, I can edit this bash rc file using nano, and the tilde here is a shortcut for the home directory of my current user. So /home/rec in that case. And for example, we could then add this export command to the end of the file. Yeah, so much for displaying our backups within the CLI and also creating encrypted backups and restoring them. Of course, you can also use backup client help to display further subcommands and then use the --help option after a subcommand, or have a look at the official documentation if you have further use cases for the backup client.